electricity. They all made actually on the day, but that's the list I have here. But for the ones that I met, thanks very much for being here, and really enjoyed meeting with you and hearing some of your perspectives and some of your thoughts on the Ireland of the future that we want to build together. Really want to congratulate the SDLP on establishing a new Ireland Commission and for persisting with it through lots of different events and electoral contests and all the things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis as a politician. It can be hard to find time to do the long-term thinking, and you very much persisted with that. And it's an opportunity for us to engage with people, to share ideas, to test them, to do so in a forward-looking way and in a non-adversarial and non-sectarian way, in the way that the SDLP always has. I just want to offer my congratulations as well to Claire Hanna, incoming leader, and best of luck in your future in that regard. And also my congratulations to Colin on his re-election as your MP for this area, but also on, I think it was 9 years as leader of the SDLP. I lasted for 7, Colin did 9, and it can be a very difficult job being leader of your party because you have to be the MP representing your constituency or the TV in the south. You're running your party as well, and then you may also be involved in government, and you're really doing 3 jobs at the same time, and that can be hard to do. But I wish Colin the very best in the future, staying on as your MP, of course, but also perhaps, like me, being able to take a particular interest in issues such as this, and having more time to do so. So, in terms of today, what I'd like to do is share with you a few thoughts. Just like yours, my thoughts are my own. They're not necessarily those of my party, and they're not fully tested either. And I want to put them out there really so that they can be. And if there is support for them, well then I'm delighted. If there isn't, I'm open to changing my ideas, and I'm also able to change my mind. I've done it a few times down the years, and I'm not afraid to do it again. I don't think people should be in politics. Too often people feel they have to stick to a position forever, even if the evidence has changed, or they feel perhaps that they might have actually got it wrong. I believe that a new Ireland, a united Ireland, is likely in the coming decades, but it is by no means certain. We know from research that younger people support it more so than older people, and I think that will be the case as time goes by. And I think Brexit and the possibility of rejoining the European Union, which some people mentioned here today, has caused some people to support unification who mightn't have done so in the past. In the Republic, as you know, we now have a very strong economy and a substantial budget surplus, while the UK is facing into budget cuts. And the NHS, which used to work brilliantly, hasn't worked very well for a very long time. And even if you look at our health service in the south, notwithstanding our problems, the staff get paid more, people don't wait as long, patient outcomes and life expectancy are better. The only main difference that we have is that there are still some charges, but they can certainly be reduced and eliminated over time, and other improvements made as well. And we have, on balance, a more generous welfare system, better pensions, and the cost of childcare is lower and is coming down further. So I think we're in a very different place than we were 100 years ago, or 50 years ago, or even 20 years ago. The case for unification and the arguments for unification are a lot stronger than they were then because of the things that have changed. And I think migration to Northern Ireland as well has created a new cohort of people who aren't rooted in generational nationalism or unionism, who are open to being persuaded. And of course, so many younger people as well, who I think are more open in their ideas about the future. And I think for this part of the country, for the Northwest, partition probably did more harm than anywhere else in the country. And that's because Derry and Donegal were split from each other, and Derry was split from its national hinterland. And we're seeing things happening now, like the development of the university in Magee, like hopefully the building of the A5, like new services in Albigelvin, that should have happened decades ago, or even generations ago, but didn't happen, because the critical mass of population either wasn't there in Donegal, or wasn't there in Derry and Tyrone, and things went to Belfast or Dublin and Galway instead. And I think that's something that's now slowly changing. There's a long way to catch up. And I believe that would be accelerated in a new Ireland, with so many decisions being made first vote. So as you know, we have a general election coming up in the south. I don't know when, by the way. Simon Harris hasn't told me privately or publicly, but it's going to happen sometime between October, November and March next year. And one thing I'm saying to every political party in the south, not just my own, is that they should have a section in their manifesto, in their ideas document for the next government that talks about Northern Ireland and talks about a new Ireland. And I'm suggesting that they should try and beef up the Shared Island Unit, which was established by this government, put more money into the Shared Island Fund that is doing things like contributing to the cost of the A5 and improving some facilities here in the universities and so on. And also should set out the establishment of the New Ireland Commission, something in a way that's being attempted here, but was done in the past, in the 1980s, by one of my predecessors, Gareth Fitzgerald, bringing together the political parties that want to, and also unions and business people and civil society interests, to talk about what question might actually be put to the people if a referendum comes, because the question is really important. We know that from Brexit, people need to know what they're voting for, and they didn't at that time. So what the question would be, what a new Ireland would look like, and also how we manage the transition, which is something that could be complicated. And I read a lot of the research that's been done by Aaron's. I'm not sure you've heard of them, but it's a project that's co-funded by Notre Dame University in the US and the Royal Irish Academy in Ireland. And they do research every couple of months, asking people what they think about unification and a new Ireland. And they're going to do the next phase of that now in the next couple of weeks. And it's really interesting stuff to read. In the south, it shows that support for unification is very high, but it's also very shallow. When people in the south are challenged about some of the changes that they might have to embrace or accept, support drops. And when you look at Northern Ireland, it shows that support isn't strong enough. You know, even people from a Catholic, nationalist, or Republican background who vote that way in elections, there's a good chunk of them that aren't that convinced about unification. You've got a big group in the middle as well. And if a referendum were to happen tomorrow, there's no certainty that it would be passed. And I think that shouldn't happen then until we're fairly confident that it should pass. Because we know from other places where the vote happens and it gets defeated, it knocks it off the agenda for a long time. So I remember when I was your age, they had a vote in Australia to make Australia a republic. And most people in Australia wanted to become a republic, but they got the question wrong. It was going to be a president elected by the parliament rather than the people, and they got a no vote. And Queen was still the right thing as the King of Australia, and people didn't think that would be the case at that time. We've seen it as well in Scotland. A referendum defeated there 10 years ago. Scottish independence probably looks further away now than ever, given that there's a Labour government in Westminster and the Scottish National Party is going through its troubles. Won't bore you, Quebec, Catalonia, lots of other different examples. And the point I'm making is that this is something we have to get right, and only ask the question when we know what the question is, and we think there's a very good chance that it can be passed. One idea that I suggested, and it might be a terrible idea, but I think it's worth thinking about, is a two-stage process. One where people vote on the idea in principle, then we have a convention that works out the details in the new constitution, and people get to do a confirmatory vote. A lot of people think that's a bad idea because they want the clear question first, but it's not one that I think should be thrown out. It's one that I think should be thought about. And I'm conscious that the new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, actually advocated this approach in relation to Brexit, called for a second vote on the deal. So it's not an entirely crazy idea, and one that's been suggested before. One thing I also think is really important, and I know I'm in a city that is largely nationalist city, a majority Catholic city, but a united Ireland will be a very different place to the one we have now. And we will have almost 1 million people who are British, who identify as British, and they are British, and we should accept that. And it's really important that we don't just try to accommodate them in a new Ireland, but that we try and design a new Ireland with them, so that it's their home too. Somebody said to me once that they really don't like the word accommodation because, you know, accommodation is like a hotel or it's a B&B. It's somewhere where you get to stay, but it's not really your home. And what we have to do to make sure United Ireland works is to make sure that we co-design this, at least for those who are willing done, and that's a project that I just hope is only starting now. Because when I go to France, when I go to America, I see real local government. I see people in their own communities making their own decisions in a way that's unimaginable in Ireland. I think that's something that we definitely need to change. Another idea might be to have a president and a vice president, one coming from each community, and then also using our Senate to make sure that there's representation from all communities, but also particularly from the minority. And the original Free State Senate was actually set up that way, and I think there's something to be said in that as well. And another thing I think, and this won't be liked by everyone, is that we should have a bigger cabinet. When Ireland was established as a state back in 1922, the state did a lot less. There was no Department of Health, because that was something run by local government and by charities. There was no Department of Social Welfare. And government has got bigger over the years and will get bigger. And I'd like to see a dedicated Minister for Defence, a dedicated Minister for Transport. And that would mean having a bigger cabinet, but maybe guaranteeing that a certain number, at least initially or maybe permanently, would have to be from Northern Ireland, or would have to come from a British citizen background. And one thing we'll always be thinking about as well is the whole issue of defence. At the moment, the 6 counties of Northern Ireland are in NATO and are under the umbrella of protection of the British Army, and that is something that isn't the case in the Republic. But if we're one country, that will cease to be the case, and we'll have an island of 7 million, massive seas and massive airspace, but one that will be pretty much undefended. And we have to think about how we manage that and do that in an open way, because there's no way that a country of that size would be able to do it on our own, and we'll have to have agreements with other countries to do that. So I think we've a lot to think about and a lot to talk about. And just to finish up, maybe as Alan started, and that is the why now. I know when I was Taoiseach, when I was party leader, any time I talked about these issues, there was always the wrong time. There's elections coming up, the institutions in Stormont aren't working, it's a sensitive time when it comes to Brexit negotiations. So where are we now? We have largely settled the arrangement